Welcome, everyone, to the Aging and Spirituality podcast, where we like to focus on having a productive and fulfilling life after the age of 60, because that's an important time of our lives. And I'm Kathy
Mhm.
Lee Taylor, and our beautiful co host is.
And I'm Chris Jensen.
And today's talk is called The Spiritual Shift from Striving to Presence. And we are so glad you're here because we love to talk about where we are at this stage in our life because a lot of people find it difficult. And one of the gifts we feel of growing older is that life really begins asking us different questions. We were talking about this just a bit ago about, how we continue to learn and ask ourselves different questions and grow in those questions. And literally when you get to the third stage of your life, it's completely different. When you're young, most of your energy is directed at building a life. You're working to
Mhm.
establish yourself and create your family and develop your career and, maybe contribute to your communities depending on your situation. And, we make decisions and we solve problems. We do so many things. We navigate all the time a world that just keeps getting more complicated. And we become good during those times doing all those exercise at directing our attention toward whatever needs us the most. And that's totally appropriate at that stage in life. In those first,
Mhm.
second halves, we're building a life. So somewhere along the way, though, often before we even realize it's happening, the questions are changing. And instead of asking, what do I need to accomplish? We start asking things like, who am I becoming?
Yes.
And what is essential now at this stage in my life? And it feels and looks completely different. And instead of like trying to control your life all the time, you start looking at ways to live in harmony with it. I was talking to somebody yesterday. This is such a perfect example. And she's 78 and she has an aneurysm in her heart. And this woman has always had a gym membership her entire life and pushes herself really hard and just exercises hard. And so the thought of not being able to get her blood pressure over 110 really ticked her off. So when I suggested she be grateful that her body's been, taking her around for 78 years, like the look on her face was like, can you imagine, so ticked. But this is where you have to learn to accept and come into harmony with what is really happening at this point in your life. So I think really this is one of the reasons so many people become at this stage in the life, meditation and prayer and spiritual practice, right? I mean, a lot of in the Indian culture, as we know, having studied yoga,
Mhm.
they reserve the third part of their life for doing just that,
Yeah.
doing nothing but that, focusing on their spiritual lives.
Mhm.
So, there's a sense that there's a deeper meaning that we need to be looking for when we get to this stage. And so that got me thinking about a teacher that we have had in our lives for many years that is part of our yoga tradition, and that's Patanjali. Because he had really practical ideas about how to live life from a
Mhm.
spiritual point of view.
Mhm.
And so for those who don't know who Patanjali was, he was the compiler of the Yoga Sutras, one of the really foundational texts of yoga philosophy.
Mhm.
Uh, and just so I'm clear, when I talk about yoga, I'm not talking about stretching and physical postures as much. Like yes, we do those
Mhm.
because it's important to not have stress in your body, and relaxing your body will relax your mind at the same time, the turbulence in your mind. But Patanjali was really interested in the deeper subjects. We wanted to understand the nature of the mind and how we move from a life that's dominated by mental activity into one that's characterized by clarity and peace and wisdom. And that has definitely been the progression of my life for sure. And I know a lot in Chris's life
Oh
as
yeah.
well.
Yeah. I mean, that's part of the process. We were fortunate to have the opportunity to learn about this stuff. Mhm.
Yeah, yes. 'Cause we had a teacher that was amazing, off the charts.
Mhm.
One of those people where you meet them and you think, I want to go where that person's been,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
they've mastered
Yes.
it. So really what struck me about the distinction Patanjali makes is that um, he speaks about a couple of things differently. So two of the main concepts that he talks about are concentration and contemplation.
Mm.
And at first glance, people hearing those two words, they almost seem identical, don't they?
Mm.
Concentration and contemplation. What is the difference between those? I know that was one of my first questions on learning about Patanjali. What is the difference between those two things? But they both involve paying attention, and they're
Yeah.
both associated with meditation. And they both require us to become quieter
Mm-hmm.
than at least that our ordinary lives really allow us to be, right? But Patanjali says they are not the same thing at all. In fact, understanding the difference, and this is, dear listeners, in case you don't know, Chris is a yoga teacher of 45, over 50 years now. So if I'm saying something wrong or dumb, she's going to correct me along the way, and that's
You're not going to
perfectly
say anything dumb, that's
okay.
for sure.
Yeah, it's okay. We have that agreement. so anyway, I was talking about how he talks about the ideas of concentration and contemplation, because these will be really helpful to you if you listen to what the difference here in those two words are as he explains it. Most of us spend our lives developing the capacity to concentrate. So think about that. That's
Mhm.
concentration. Think about that.
Yeah.
Every worthwhile accomplishment has required concentration on your part. So learning a profession or raising your children or managing your finances or caring for your aging parents, all of those require some form of concentration.
Hmm.
Solving problems at work, maintaining your relationships. They even require you to focus
Hmm.
your attention on
Yep.
what really matters, right? That's concentration. Concentration is the one of the greatest strengths of the human mind. Patanjali calls it dharana. Is that I say that right?
Dharana.
What?
Dharana. Emphasis on the
Dharana.
foot. Yeah.
Thank you. Patanjali calls it dharana.
Mm.
He describes it very simply as the binding the mind to one place. Binding the mind to one place. You intentionally choose an object. For example, prayer, your breath, a candle flame, a sacred word, and whenever your attention wanders, you gently bring it back. I just described one of the first meditation lessons you learn when you go to the yoga center. If you have not heard us talk about the yoga center, you want to go to yogacenter.org and find out all about us.
Right.
That is a beginning meditation technique that I just described. It's a training exercise basically. So the mind is going to naturally jump from one thought to another, and
Right.
concentration teaches it to become steady.
Right.
Did you want to say something?
You get something called mind poise, because as you gently bring your attention back, after a while, your mind just stays there.
Oh, I didn't know that. See, there you go. That's what the benefit of having a teacher here. So, okay, so that's pretty valuable, right? Like, how many times do you hear people say, I can't meditate? My mind runs all over the
Yeah.
place. It jumps all over. I can't do. You can do it. You
Everybody can.
just sit your ass in the chair
Yeah.
and do what
Yeah,
we're
do it.
saying. And
Yeah.
and you will learn. You have to be patient with yourself. So it's really valuable to understand the difference between these things. So here's the thing though that surprised me. Patanjali never presents concentration as the goal when you hear about his teaching, right? He presents it as the preparation.
Right.
And you wonder how many of us have unknowingly stopped at concentration and never got to where they needed to go next, right? Concentration is very familiar to us, and there is still in the practice of it, there is still someone trying to accomplish something. There is still a me, a
Mm.
me up here directing my attention toward an object. I am doing the work. I am trying to become calmer. I am trying to have a better meditation.
Yeah.
I am trying to experience peace. Does that sound familiar to anybody?
Mhm.
Because it sure does to me. That's certainly what
Yes.
I was
Yes, it
thinking.
does. Yes, it does.
That is a beginner's mind,
Yeah.
right? So even our spiritual lives can become another self-improvement project. Ugh.
Mhm.
That is not where we want to get stuck. So And if you know what I'm saying here, just read your social media for a while and see what spiritual aspirants are really struggling with. They're saying
Mm.
the same damn
Mhm.
thing, right? We're judging our
Right.
meditations. We wonder if we're doing it correctly. We feel disappointed when our minds wander off. Well, yes, that's what they do. That is the
Yes,
nature of
that's it.
dealing with. We measure ourselves against some imaginary standard that we don't know anything about, right? That
Mhm.
this is what a spiritual person should experience. How do you freaking know if you've never been there? You don't, right? This is another reason to, go to an organization like
Mhm.
ours, yogacenter.org, because we've had people there for 50 years meditating in the same place. So if you're in Orange County, I might as well just throw that in there. You're in a place where you can locally go to a place where you can learn to meditate if you're really serious about it. So okay, so without realizing it, we've carried the habits that have served us the first half of our life into the second stage of our life. And here's a place where we're going to have to learn to do something different. And because the questions are becoming different, like how do I live with uncertainty? How do I make peace with loss, which
Mhm.
comes up a lot? How do I live with grief?
Yeah.
Who am I in these roles that
Mhm.
define me from keeping from changing? And how do I face aging without becoming afraid of every new limitation that comes
Yeah.
up every day for people in our generation, in our
Sure.
phase of life, right? How do I approach death without turning away
Mm.
from it? These are big questions. And, I don't know anybody that answers them for you,
Mm.
solves them for you, We all just kind of wing it. Just like, I don't know, put your head down and try to barrel through it,
Mm.
and it's not easy. But it doesn't have to be that way. These are not engineering problems. They aren't solved by concentrating harder. I talk
Mhm.
a lot about that in my
Right.
in my writings. Like you can't get where you want to go with your mind. Your mind's
Yeah.
not going to your mind's not going to take you
You
there.
have to go beyond
Concentrating
the
harder.
mind. Yes.
Yes, you have to go beyond the mind.
Mm.
So Patanjali introduces what we call, and I'm going to say this probably wrong, dhyana.
Dhyana.
Dhyana. Okay, so
Dhyana.
that's that, and that's translated basically as meditation. But I think contemplation actually captures its meaning more accurately. Contemplation isn't something you do with the mind. It's what becomes possible when the mind has become quiet enough to stop trying to control every experience that you're having. Let me say it again. It's what contemplation is something we do isn't something we do to the mind. It's what becomes possible when the mind has become quiet enough to stop trying to control every experience. And that feels like a really important distinction.
It's a receiving. Like if you contemplate an object, you receive its essence. You get to know its essence.
You see it. You said see like as in your eyes, you mean your
Um, no, I'm talking about an internal experience. Like
yes.
you get to know its essence. Like you don't if you contemplate an apple and you see that it's red and it's juicy and it's got a stem, that's not contemplation. If you look at the apple and you get a sense of the apple's essence, that's contemplation.
There you go.
That's when you're contemplating.
Perfect. So concentration is active. It's
Yes.
a feeling sense. Contemplation is receptive. Concentration asks us to direct attention. Contemplation invites us to receive whatever it is that is already there.
Yeah. Perfect. Yeah, that's it.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So notice how these two things that we just described feel differently, right?
Mhm.
One is based on effort, the other is based on availability,
Yep.
right? So this doesn't mean that contemplation is passive. It's a very alert state,
Mhm.
but the alertness isn't driven by striving.
Yeah.
Instead of trying to make something happen, we become deeply present to what is already unfolding, deeply present to what is already there.
Mhm.
So I think the nature offers us, beautiful examples of this. So imagine you're like standing beside an ocean. You can stand there and you can analyze the waves, which I would probably do, calculate the tides, name the birds overhead, That is a form of attention.
Hmm.
Or you could stand there long enough that something begins to soften inside of you. The boundary between you and the ocean doesn't
Hmm.
literally disappear, but your
Yeah.
sense of separation becomes less important, right? You
Yeah.
stop thinking about the off, you stop thinking about the ocean, you simply experience being it,
Yep.
being or being with it.
Hmm.
And many of us have moments like this. Like there are other places in your life that you can recognize when this has happened to you. Like you say in this stage of life, maybe you're likely a grandparent and you're
Hmm.
watching your grandchild sleep, or you're sitting beside someone you love, taking in that sense. You're looking at the night sky, or you're walking through a forest. You're having the experience. Time seems to disappear for a while, right? In that there isn't anything that you have to accomplish. You don't feel that need at all. In the contemplation, your experiencing feels complete exactly as it is. And Patanjali would say, these moments are not accidents. They are the glimpses of a way, a different way of being conscious. I think people sometimes refer to this state of contemplation as serendipity, when things just kind of line up in life, right? They just
Hmm.
tick, tick, and you're just always so
Right.
sweetly surprised that something beautiful outcome comes from it.
Mhm.
And it's fascinating that, Patanjali believed concentration prepares the ground for these moments, but it doesn't produce them, right? But concentration is the first thing we teach in meditation because that's exactly what it does. It prepares you to be able to move into the concentration. And that's really important to understand that distinction. So, concentration, just to kind of sum up, is the decision to stop stirring up the mud. But clarity isn't something that you manufacture. The mud will settle down by itself and the water will become transparent because you stop interfering with it. And I really think this is one of the greatest invitations that we can have in the second half of our life because, perhaps our task is no longer to become better at controlling our experience. What a relief. Perhaps it's just to become better at receiving it.
Yeah, that's the thing. We have to learn to receive.
We have to learn to be receptive,
Mm.
and learning to be in contemplation will help take you there.
Yep.
And you have to know how to concentrate first to be able to keep your mind steady in that place so you can
Hmm.
move into the receptive space.
That's the big thing, learning to concentrate. That's the hardest thing for most people.
And if you can understand what we just said, then you know the answer to the question, why should I meditate?
Yep.
Right there. There's your
There.
answer.
Right
Right
there.
there. It's so worth it.
Yep.
So, just keep in mind, it doesn't mean that you become like passive or indifferent. You do not. It means you're allowing your own personal life to teach you instead of constantly trying to master it all the time.
Yeah. You're much more clear.
Yes, yes, and less exhausted. Trying to control and
Yeah.
master everything all the time gets really annoying at this
Mhm.
age, because you realize you can't control anything anyway. So you might as well just enjoy
Mhm.
the process, enjoy the life as you're still experiencing it. And I've noticed something interesting in conversations with older adults. The wiser people rarely have any answers.
Mhm.
You
Yeah.
know, they don't say anything. They just seem to possess kind of a different relationship with not knowing.
Yeah.
They don't have the same experience that we have with the frustration or the needing to control
Mhm.
or feeling frantic or, some kind of reactive way. They're just more willing to let life unfold, you know,
Hmm.
being more receptive really overall because, it's not that they aren't thinking anymore. They're still thinking, but it's because they've learned there are forms of knowing that thinking alone cannot reach. And
Yeah.
contemplation opens that door to that kind of knowing, that inner,
Real
intuitive,
one.
authentic kind of knowing.
Yeah.
And that really, this changes how we meditate, honestly. Many of us sit down with a hidden agenda. Remember those days? You had things you wanted to get. You're going to ask for them.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I would need my mind to get quieter, and I need to be more peaceful, and I need to not like have a heart attack on the spot, and I need to have a spiritual experience,
Yes.
please give me one of those, and so I can keep up with my friends.
Keep up with my friends. Yeah. Right. Yeah.
That kind of thing. Well, that's what happens when you're
It
younger. That's
happens.
just the
Yeah.
way it is, yeah, right?
Hmm.
So just notice how much effort is hiding inside of all of those hopes. What if meditation wasn't about producing an experience? What if it was about just becoming available?
Hmm.
Becoming available. You start with the concentration, you gently follow your breath. Each time your mind wanders, you return.
Yep.
Not because concentration is the goal, but because it settles the surface of the mind. And then after a while, something changes for you. You stop trying, you let go of the assignment, you simply remain present. If thoughts come, they come. If silence comes, it comes. Its restlessness comes, that comes too. And nothing needs to be different. You are not manufacturing peace in any way. You are making yourself available to discover peace. That peace that is already underneath and that constant mind that is always moving. So there you go.
That's
I
so
think
important.
that's
And to
hopefully,
get there is worth everything in life. And
yeah.
then there's so much more.
It I hope it makes you feel more hopeful, like especially as we age, because um so many so much of aging makes us think about losing control of life. Our bodies are changing and people are leaving us, right? And dreams may have come and gone and you never realize them. And maybe your plans are falling
Yeah.
apart,
Yeah.
and it's our well-being really depends on controlling our circumstances. We're going to spend our later years exhausted,
Mm.
just like worn out. But if we want to have well-being, it really begins with that quality of our awareness
Mhm. Yeah.
that our teacher showed us every day, that we can
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
we know how to be in that place. And Patanjali he believed our ordinary minds really constantly color the reality of our memories and our fears and our judgments and our expectations and our desires. So as long as you're caught in that loop,
Hmm.
you're not experiencing the higher levels of consciousness. Yoga is the calming of the fluctuations of the mind. That was a statement made by Patanjali.
Hmm.
Yoga is a calming of the fluctuations of the mind. Like notice what he didn't say there. He didn't say yoga creates peace.
That's the pieces of it.
He said yoga is the calming of the fluctuations of the mind. He suggests peace becomes visible or available when
Mhm.
the constant fluctuations calm down, right? When they quiet down.
Right.
That's a very different understanding. It's different between creating something new and uncovering something that has always been there,
Yeah.
waiting for you to discover it.
Waiting for us to uncover it.
And that is the part that we want you to find comforting, because it is there and it's just waiting for you to be able to tap into it. It is the deepest part of ourselves.
Yeah.
Um, and it doesn't have to be built, and you don't have to work at it, and you don't have to make deals with God to get it. You just have to practice. You just have to uncover it. You just have to be quiet and
Hmm.
still and silent enough to find it, to yearn for it and to ask that it comes so you can receive it.
Hmm.
It's not about hopefully when you get to the stage in your life, you're not worried about accumulating more and becoming someone else. And even the quest that a lot of our younger generation on becoming more spiritual,
Hmm.
like spiritual warriors, ta-da. But it's really, this is the great part. We're at the stage where we can be gentle, and we can settle into our meditation practices, into our concentration and contemplation practices, and really following our breath and understanding what it means to let go of a mind that wants to wander all the time, and knowing that it has nothing of value to hold on to.
Just all that wandering. What does that do but take our energy?
It goes nowhere. Take
Yeah.
our word for it. If nothing else, if you hear nothing else, it's
Right.
not going to
Goes
take you where
nowhere.
you want to
Right. Right. Right.
go. Yeah, so stop trying to achieve, just be present. Just contemplation opens the heart, right? Just the way that
Yeah.
concentration steadies the mind,
Yep.
contemplation will open the heart. So there you go.
What more can you ask for than an open home? Because that's where the
Ah,
peace and the love is. So
that's a journey in itself,
it's,
which we will talk about more, I'm sure.
yes, no
There's
doubt.
just there's so much aging in the, so much wisdom in the aging, that
Yes. Oh
we can
gosh, yeah.
tap into. So anyway, hope you find what we said today valuable, and from our heart to yours, I hope you're going to find in the next, it's July 4th weekend. I hope you're going to find some moments where you're present and
Mhm.
quiet and able to go past your mind into that beautiful place that we call peace, and really enjoy yourself. Have a great 4th of July, and we'll see you again
Great
soon.
time. Yes, a safe time. And wherever you are in the world, enjoy this. And,
Yes.
come to YouTube and like us and subscribe
Yeah.
because
She
that,
remembered. Thank you. I
we
forgot.
got to know a little more about you too. Send us some comments and questions. We like those.
We love those. Bye, everyone.
See you next
See you.
time.